I was the first human to set foot on TRAPPIST-1, a lonely, dusky marble caught in the weak embrace of its ultra-cool dwarf star. 50 years had passed in the void, though I only remembered the blink of an eye, the frigid silence of my cryopod breaking as the AI's monotone voice hummed in my ears. Landing site selected, it said, calm as death. The site was perfect, or so it claimed. Evidence of civilization, structures, roads, patterns too deliberate to be natural. A place that almost seemed to beckon. The sky was an eerie shade of rust, a lightless haze pressing down, thick and ancient. The computer assured me it was safe to step outside without a spacesuit. Breathable atmosphere, it said, its voice flat and unwavering. Comparable to Earth. I had to trust it. 50 years of preparation had brought me here after all. But as I stood at the shuttle's hatch staring at the alien horizon, I couldn't shake the sense that this wasn't just a coincidence. It felt planned. Then I saw it. A structure, massive and impossibly silent, hanging in the sky like a dark omen. It didn't belong there. Nothing natural about it. It knew I was there too. Somehow I was sure of that. I forced myself to focus, following protocol to the letter. My hands moved mechanically, activating the AI transponder, a tiny device meant to broadcast goodwill. A warm welcome, sent on every known frequency to soothe whatever might be lurking out there, watching, listening. No answer came. Static hissed in my ears, filling the quiet with a reminder of just how alone I was. Hesitantly, I approached the massive structure looming in the hazy coppery distance. The alien twilight threw strange shadows across its surface, as if the thing were breathing, alive. I half expected the lights to go out, for some unseen patrol to sweep in and put an end to my trespassing. But nothing happened. The structure stood there, impossibly vast, defying logic. It shouldn't have existed, and yet it did, like the memory of a dream you're certain never belonged to you. Its size was a mockery of reason, a challenge to my senses. It didn't belong on this desolate planet, and yet there it stood, waiting. I sent out the message again, my fingers trembling over the console, though I told myself it was just the chill of the air. This is Commander Elias Black of the Terra Nova, requesting contact with the local inhabitants. Please respond. Silence. The signal dissipated into the void, just like the last one. No acknowledgement, no greeting. Only the faint buzz of my own heartbeat in my ears. The closer I got, the more the building seemed to warp. Not physically, but perceptually, as though my brain couldn't quite reconcile its existence. The smooth, seamless surface swallowed the pale light of the twin suns above, leaving it muted and cold. My fear gripped me like an old injury, dull at first, then sharp and persistent. But I pressed forward. When I finally reached the entrance, the structure seemed to breathe in my presence, its doors yawning open with no input from me. I stepped inside, half expecting to be greeted by some alien sentinel, or worse, nothing at all. Instead, the silence shattered as alarms blared, red lights flashing like angry eyes. It startled me, but not as much as the familiarity of the place itself. This wasn't alien, not really. The design was unmistakable, human, or at least it wanted to look human. The lines, the smooth steel walls, the soft golden light in the hallways. It mimicked the kind of structures we'd been building back on Earth for centuries. But something was wrong. The measurements were off, the proportions slightly skewed, as if the building had been designed by something that had seen our architecture but didn't quite understand it. And it was empty. No control panels, no furniture, no signs of life. Just empty halls stretching on forever, It felt like walking into a ghost's dream of what it thought life should be. I called out, my voice echoing down the corridors, swallowed by the overwhelming silence. Nothing. I left the building unsettled, as though the place had tried to tell me something, but the words were just out of reach. I took the shuttle and aimed for the next point of interest flagged by the AI. Another structure, identical in every way, rose on the horizon. I followed the protocols again. Beacon on, signal sent. Nothing. When I stepped inside, the same thing happened. Alarms, familiarity, silence. That night, I slept in one of the rooms, though the very idea made my skin crawl. The bed, if it could be called that, was a perfect approximation of comfort. And yet it felt alien, like something pretending to know what rest was. I dreamt of the planet that night, of its endless skies and shifting horizons. It whispered to me in voices I couldn't understand, but felt deep in my bones. It wanted me here, it needed me here. The next morning, I set off again, heading for yet another structure. This time, I didn't bother with the protocols. They were meaningless. The results were always the same. A massive, eerily human building that was empty of life but heavy with intention. By the end of 10 days, I had visited one abandoned building after another. The structures dotted the planet like tombstones for a civilization that never existed. I stopped thinking about the protocols altogether. Instead, I wandered the halls, running my hands along the cold walls, trying to imagine the kind of people who might have lived here, what they might have been like, what had happened to them. And then it hit me. There were no people, no civilization, no architects or builders. These buildings weren't remnants of anything. They were fabrications, grown by the planet itself. This world wasn't abandoned, it was waiting. It had been listening to the universe, picking up fragments of radio signals, stray transmissions, echoes of human culture. And it had shaped itself to match. Like flowers lure bees with bright colours and sweet nectar, this planet had built its own bait to attract visitors. That's when I remembered. The signal. I had already sent the clear to land beacon back to Earth. I had invited humanity to this place, unknowingly leading them into... what? A trap? A home? Something else entirely? The thought chilled me. The planet wasn't hostile, not yet, but its intentions were unknowable. Perhaps it only wanted to be inhabited. Perhaps it wanted something more. And now, Earth was coming.